What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be pulling the busted motor out of the duck truck. This motor's stuck in a boat anchor, so it's got to go. Stay tuned. Okay, so I already got the radiator out of the way. The motor mount bolts, the drive shaft, and the transmission cross member still have to come out. I say transmission cross member sparingly because, take a look at this. That is a piece of angle iron with two sheet metal screws, if you can see them, on either end, zapped into the frame rail. And that's the transmission cross member. They torched the factory tubular cross member here to clear the C4's tail shaft. And so that's all that's holding the transmission in. And it looks like they drug it on the ground when they jumped this thing over there because it's bent. At least it'll be easy to remove. So I'm going to zap this stuff out, get the drive shaft out, go from there, and then pluck this thing. Maybe we'll see what's wrong with it. So they made their own floor shifter with the Courier shift lever on some C4 floor shifter, some factory one. It all came through the original boot, and they made their own like shift detent rod attached to that spring. And I don't know if it's intended to function like a bump shifter, but you can bump it from gear to gear. That might have gone too. But I don't know how it was intended to function whenever they backyard engineered this, but it's kind of neat. If you go all the way to park, though, it does fall out, like if you push too far. So that's probably less than ideal, but who knows? Not sure how it was designed to work, but it's kind of neat. Do you think dirt daubers can throw a drive shaft out of balance? Okay, so transmission cross member's out, the rubber mount just disintegrated, came off of there. I had to cut either side of that factory tubular cross member. I had to cut them off where they had torched it so that the tail shaft could drop out. And I ended up just cutting the shifter loose. But now let's see if we can fish this motor out of here. Motor mounts are kind of putting up a fight. The sway bar's in the way. Okay, so I had to trim this header or homemade manifold, whatever you want to call it. I think it's too crude to be a header. Trimmed it off because it was going to hang on the fender. The motor's just about out, except for, you can't see it from here, but you can from here. The bell housing for the trans is hitting on the steering drag link. So I'm probably just going to cut that drag link because I'm assuming they put this motor in first and then stuck the C4 behind it after the motor was sitting in the truck. And I want to pull it out as one piece because I don't feel like dropping that transmission out. So, and all this IFS is getting cut off anyway. So I guess I'm cutting the drag link, and if I want to be able to steer the truck with the suspension that's underneath it for now, I'll just zap it back together with the welder.
I think it's free.
Okay, so I got this extra greasy motor and transmission out of the truck. It's real thick on the transmission. This thing's an absolute grease ball. I'm going to pull the intake manifold, the valve covers, see if it's got any bent push rods or broken rockers, or if I don't find anything in the valve train or the valley, I'll pull plugs, kind of see if I can see down the cylinder bores or see if water comes out. And then maybe I'll pull the heads. I'm kind of using the homemade manifold header deals. They booger welded together on this thing to pick the thing up and down so I can go put it in the other barn to store it until I decide to do something with it, rebuild it or something. But I got to rob the parts I need off of it. I need the motor mount so I can see if I can find some new ones that look just like that or make something else that works. So I'll pull it apart and we'll see what the hell's wrong with this thing. Okay, so I got the motor open, intake's off, distributor's out. Not great, not terrible. It's not the worst motor I've seen sludge-wise, but I mean, it's pretty sludgy. My brother had an El Camino that was way worse, but anyhow, intake distributor off. I'm going to reuse those bits, convert the distributor to electronic. Mating surface on the intake manifold's pretty good. The gasket didn't tear off in sheets and come off, some with the intake, some with the manifold. I mean, some with the block, some with the manifold, so that's cool. I guess I'll pull the valve covers, see if anything looks out of place there, and if not, then pull the plug, see if water pukes out of the thing, and if not, then maybe it's just like a ring ridge or something. Okay, so the valve covers are off. This motor's pretty gross, but it's not the worst motor I've seen. I'm gonna pull the heads off and see what we're messing with. It's got 302 heads on it, so I guess it is a 302. It's not a 289 or anything. Up until this point, we weren't sure what it was, but yeah. It was pretty gross on the inside. I'm gonna pull the heads off, pull the front accessory drive off, see what the deal is, see why it won't roll over. Okay, so I got the janky homemade exhaust manifold header, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of a mix of both. Off of there. One of these, it's hard to see because of the shadow. One of these stopped up full of rust. That's this front port here. I'll pull this head off. We'll see what's underneath it. Okay, the head's off. There's definitely some rust in the cylinders. That one's pretty clean, but it's pretty chunky. That front exhaust port coughed a bunch of rust out of it. Valves are pretty rusty. I gotta find the casting number on these heads here in a second. Scrape it clean so I can see what heads these are, what year this motor might be, or what year these heads are off of anyway. I'm gonna pull the other side. I expect it's gonna look pretty similar though. Okay, so this is what the other side looked like. A little bit of coolant in this cylinder, lots of rust and other crap in the rest of them. It's no wonder this thing would roll over a little bit and then get stuck. So that is what was wrong with this motor that sat since this truck has been sitting since probably 89. No, 87, 88, somewhere in there. I got to look at the plate on the back of the bed. It's got the last time it was registered. It sat in the field in Oklahoma or North Texas or somewhere. There you go. I'm going to go mothball this motor until I decide to do something with it. Send it to the machine shop or something. But I've got that other 302 to go in the truck. Now we know what the deal was with this one. It's pretty gross. Pretty hashed. Okay, so these heads that were on Ducky's old motor are 69302 heads, DOOE. That casting went until 75, 76, sometime in the mid-70s. No idea what year that block is. I'm not going to look at the casting number. I don't care that much. I have a set of heads just like these that are 69 DOOE, same casting number just like that, up there on the shelf that a buddy of mine gave me that came off a running motor that I'm going to use on my Cougar because it's got a 58cc combustion chamber compared to a 63cc combustion chamber on the 68 two-barrel heads that are on my Cougar. So these are junk. They'll probably go on the shelf. Maybe I'll use them on something. Maybe I won't. GT40P heads are a better place to start than DOOE heads are now. But that set will go on my Cougar. That motor on the engine stand's going on Ducky. That axle's going to go underneath Ducky. So that's where we're at. I grabbed the intake and the distributor off the old motor and just kind of wanted to show you guys what was going on with the old motor. It's a big turd. It's been hanging out with no carburetor on it since the late 80s. So So that's it for this episode. We pulled the old 302 out of Ducky, broke it down to see why it wouldn't roll over. The consensus is it's a big turd from sitting without a carburetor on it for God knows how many years. I know it was sitting in a field in, I think, North Texas, where I got it from, since at least the late 80s. It was last tagged in Texas in 88, I think. Like I said, if the bed wasn't turned over on its side and the plate wasn't facing down, I'd look at the sticker. But, so that motor's junk. This motor I've got on the stand over here is going to go in. I'm going to be throwing the Bronco axles underneath this truck soon. Stay tuned for that. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more. And I do have a video on Dorothy and my Cougar coming soon. They might get posted before this one, so you may have already seen them when you see this. But thanks for watching.